Welcome to the 42nd Annual Sun and Fun International Convention and Fly-In here at the beautiful Lakeland Linder Regional Airport. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts here on the Florida Aviation Network, and we bring this to you on www.floridaaviationnetwork.com. Isn't that just so easy to remember? And what we do here during the Sun and Fun event is we have the opportunity to talk with a lot of organizations, a lot of air show performers, and it's very compelling, informative, educational, informational information to bring to you either at home or wherever you happen to be, either hearing this on the radio or looking at this live on your computer monitor. Or you can even have a 70-inch big TV computer screen and still be using it as your computer. So that's the way with the future. But today we have an organization that has so much going on in the background, and you really never know it until you need them. But until you learn a little bit more about them, you might want to send some of your young youth-oriented people that like aviation and airplanes to the Civil Air Patrol. And welcome. How you doing?
Hey Ben, thanks for having us today. We're happy to be here.
We have
Captain Ty Lahnen.
Captain Ty Lahnen. I don't see. Where's your?
Well, this is our working uniform.
Oh, okay. Well, Ty and Gail.
And Lieutenant Gail Arnold.
Okay, Gail. And you guys are with the Florida Wing and Civil Air Patrol. And I've noticed, Gail, you got on your patch there, United States Air Force Auxiliary.
Yes.
What does the Civil Air Patrol have to do with the Air Force?
We are now part of the total force. There is the active, the reserve, the guard, and the auxiliary.
In 1941, when Civil Air Patrol was founded on December 1st, just a week before Pearl Harbor, we were founded under the Office of Civilian Defense, which the purpose we served at that time during World War II was primarily maritime patrol, making sure that the German submarines weren't attacking American shipping coming in and out of port. And after the war, they decided, hey, this is a great organization. We might want to keep them around even though the war is over. So in 1946, we were chartered by Congress as a federally chartered nonprofit organization and made part of what was then the Army Air Corps, later the U.S. Air Force, auxiliary. So our role within the Air Force is as a civilian volunteer support organization to the Air Force, just as you might have a women's auxiliary or any other sort of auxiliary organization. Our manpower supplements the manpower of the U.S. Air Force, and some of the ways we do that is through search and rescue. We perform 90% of all continental U.S. inland search and rescue as tasked by the U.S. Air Force.
90%.
90%.
That's a lot.
Well, that's not
That's
overall.
almost
That's as tasked by the Air Force.
Sure.
The Air Force is responsible for aviation search and rescue within the continental U.S. inland. Coast Guard takes over off water or over water. We are also available to federal, state, and local governments for the same sort of missions. And in our auxiliary role, we not only do search and rescue, but we can perform disaster relief, aerial imagery. We work with the Forest Service and do some fire patrols, and a wide range of services to all levels of government in order of precedence. You know, we have to see who pays our bills. That's who gets us first. We have over 7,000 qualified aircrew members. We operate the world's largest single-engine aircraft fleet with 550 Cessnas, mostly 172s and 182s and 206s around the U.S. That's bigger than most countries' standing Air Force.
Do you have any Gippsland air vans?
We do. We have several of them. The GA8s.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
I had to put that plug in for the company because and I do know an awful lot about the Civil Air Patrol, but I'm trying to get our viewing audience and our listening audience to gain as much knowledge as they can, because people don't realize what the Civil Air Patrol actually does. And as a volunteer organization, they are responsible for so many life-saving events. And when you're talking about search and rescue, people don't realize when the chips are down, when we have an accident or overdue aircraft that's been reported, it's not the sheriff's department that's going out to look for them. It's not the police department. It's not the Air Force per se. However, They are there because that's your role.
They're
is
tasking
to go
us
initial.
to do that mission for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And we're able to do it at a cost of between $120 and $160 per flight hour. Think about what some of the big helicopters cost. We're talking thousands of dollars an hour. So the amount of taxpayer money that we're saving with our volunteer pilots and our little non-gas guzzlers, 172s, 182s, is incredible. We receive about $40 million in appropriated funding from the Air Force every year. In 2015, the amount of volunteer man hours, if you put a dollar amount on it, was well over $160 million. So it's a pretty good trade-off.
Well, and I tell you, Tyler, the quality of your organization, it is military influenced. Your determination, your skill sets that you teach, and I just love the sound of the jet behind you.
That sounds good.
No,
The
it's just
35s have been buzzing all morning.
As we said earlier, the sound of freedom.
Yeah.
But the cadet program is vital to pumping folks in with the discipline of military, without some of the sting of the military. Because it could be, you take a young person, man, woman, girl, boy. It's just girls, youth. I mean, and again, Gail, you are more involved with the cadet programs
Side of
and
things,
youth
yes.
training.
In the Air Force Academy, in the new classes, about 10% of the students there are former CAP members, or former cadets. So
And
that says something.
what-
They move on, and they're a big part of the future, a big part of our military. They go into, if they make it to our Billy Mitchell Award, if they are in the program that long, they've achieved that, they can go into the Army or the Air Force, the Coast Guard at a higher pay rate.
Well, that's always helpful.
That's nice.
Gail, tell us what's your age range? What's your target?
12 to 20.
12
we
to 20.
have well over 24,000 across the country.
And if somebody's, say, 22 years old, what do they do?
Well,
They're old
now-
enough to be, not to be a cadet, but what do they do to help if they want to join
They
the
will
Civil
go
Air
ahead and switch over to the senior side, as many do. Sometimes they're anxious at the age of 19 or so. They're in college, so they don't have the time to invest with the cadets and all the activities that we do, but they want to help and they want to bring the cadets up. So they'll become a senior member, and they're very active on the senior side.
And as a senior member, and I've got to admit that I met my wife, Melody, through the Civil Air Patrol.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
I was
yes,
there
remember.
in Orlando when I was with the FAA giving some talks about airworthiness, and she was interested in being a senior member. She had no aviation experience or training, but she knew about the mission of the Civil Air Patrol and thought it would be neat.
And
it
you
is
mentioned
neat.
that you don't need to have any aviation experience or training. Any position that every organization, be it a business or a non-profitable organization, requires to make run, we need everything from your finance people, your admin, our personnel, professional development, and on the cadet side,
Medical.
we need the medical,
Yeah.
legal, you name it. If a business needs it, we need it. We've got nearly 60,000 members in this organization nationwide. I mean, that's the size of many Fortune 500 companies.
Sure it is.
And we're running this on people that are volunteering of their own goodwill and their time. And the level of expertise it takes to run an organization with 60,000 volunteer members is no different than that of a business. So, people ask me what I do for a living. I say, well, I have a full-time job. I work for the railroad, and then I have 3 full-time jobs in CAP. I spend as much or more hours on this than I do at work. But you can give as little or as much as you want. Most squadron members will attend an hour and a half, 2-hour meeting once a week. And that's how you initially join. Just start going to a squadron, see what's a fit.
Get involved.
Get involved. And
Yeah.
you don't have to do what you do in your regular life. We have finance officers, an accountant will walk in. They deal with numbers all day long. They don't want to do finance. So, we can have something for them to branch out and do something different.
Search and rescue.
Exactly.
I mean, if you either air crew or ground crew.
This
I
is
mean,
true,
there's a
and
lot
our
of different
cadets
things.
love the search and rescue portion of it.
Bivouac, going out on
Absolutely.
SAR missions.
Yes, communications.
Practice. Oh,
Yes.
You guys practice.
Absolutely.
all the
A lot
time.
We have over 30,000 of our members are qualified emergency responders in
Yes.
various specialties, trained to the standards of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So we're able to work side by side with FEMA and other first responder organizations, sheriff's office, fire departments, at major and large-scale incidents. After 9/11, the FEMA switched to what they call the Incident Command System, ICS structure. Our members are required to attend these same ICS courses to learn the procedures for these large-scale incidents. As the professional full-time responders, we go through the same training, held to the same standards, have the same ability.
And as far as missions, back when we did have 9/11, who was the first one over the World Trade Center?
Civil Air Patrol was the first aircraft to fly over Ground Zero at the request of the Air Force to provide aerial imagery of Ground Zero. So the very first pictures that the emergency managers were looking at were taken by a Civil Air Patrol aircrew.
Well, and I'll never forget the picture of the Stinson on the coast with the logo on there, and dropping a bomb on the German sub.
That's right.
Sank two German submarines in World War II. We attacked hundreds of them. We hit, I believe, 10 or 12 of them, and we actually sank two. And the amount of shipping that we were able to preserve, not only cargo, but lives of troops on ships.
Sure.
Back in that day, submarines had to run on the surface. That they would
couldn't
go
stay
underwater
submerged
for a
for
little
months
bit.
on
They
end.
couldn't stay submerged, and they were very limited in their attacking capability underwater. So we would go down and buzz them. The first thing they see is an aircraft coming in. They got to submerge, which really messes up their attack plans. And by that time, maybe the cargo vessel was able to get away.
Sure.
So just by buzzing down on them, even if we didn't drop a bomb at them, we were able to protect that ship.
Well, and we love our German friends now.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, we were good guys and bad guys. But
one of the things we do internationally with our cadet program is the International Air Cadet Exchange, IACE. And we send every year some of our top cadets to many places in the world, from England to Germany, Australia, Japan, all over the world. And they send theirs to us as well for a couple of weeks. So
cross-pollination is good.
Exactly, and it's great. Just like the military does exercises with other nations, our cadets get to learn from their counterparts. And as we've always said, we know that aviation brings people together all over the world, and that's a perfect example of it.
And one of the questions that I get sometimes, and folks know that I am affiliated with CAP, is how do they keep track of all their, what do they do? And it's a military organization. And for example, uniforms. If I wanted to learn about uniforms, what regulation would I go to?
39-1.
There you go, the old 39-1. If I wanted to learn about operations, what regulation would I go to?
No, well, there's a whole list of them.
It depends. There's
60-1?
So that's one of them.
Yeah.
There's about 10 of them.
Yeah, there
But
are.
you know, it breaks it down to the point where we standards. It's standardization.
Yes.
And again, it gets back to the discipline. And this is what your cadet program
Right.
talks
Leadership
about.
is so important.
Punctuality.
That's
Grooming.
what it's all about. Grooming, exactly.
Your uniform. You when you wear a uniform for CAP, you got to meet military standards.
We
Yes,
are
they do.
held to
We
the
have
same
inspection.
standards as the active duty military, and we wear the Air Force uniform. The only difference in our uniform that we wear in our dress blues, for example, is the color of the epaulets on your shoulder. We carry military rank. We wear the Air Force officer's uniform for CAP senior members. Our BDUs, we're still in the old Woodland BDUs, which the Air Force has transitioned out of. We are switching to ABUs here pretty soon. It's in the works, and that'll be nice because we'll get a lot of hand-me-down uniforms from our Air Force, and that's important when we have low-income cadets out there, is to have the support of the military and of nonprofit organizations that can help us put our cadets into uniforms. And you know, one thing I want to touch on, we're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year on December 1st.
Wow,
75 years.
Wow.
It's a big milestone
So
for us.
it's a year of celebrating.
Well, I'm telling you guys, and now with my new role, I'm a volunteer here with Florida Aviation Network. I'm also a volunteer to the Civil Air Patrol. My paying gig right now is Mahindra Aerospace, and they are the owners of the Gippsland Gips Aero GA8 Air Van. And right now you have 16 of them that are located nationwide. And in Alaska, there's going to be a lot more coming down the road between the Air Van and Civil Air Patrol, because the uniqueness of the size of the aircraft. Cadet O-Rides,
so much, yes.
they were first purchased back 10, 15 years ago for the Archer program.
Yep.
But now that has kind of run its course, you still have the aircraft. It's a great resource for you to O-Rides. Gail,
Our
quickly,
orientation
quickly,
flights, yes,
orientation.
the cadets love them. We have 5 powered flights for the cadets and 5 glider flights during their tenure as a cadet that they can take, and we schedule those regularly. And we monitor, they get their rides in the back seat, but they get their 5 in the front seat up front, and by pilots who are trained and trained again and to meet CAP standards for training the cadets during
Well,
this time.
and Gail, I want to thank you for spending some time here with us this morning, and Tyler, you as well. I'm sorry, Captain and Lieutenant.
Thank you.
But and really, Civil Air Patrol, some of the tongue-in-cheek methods are come and pay. That's what CAP stands for.
Caring about people.
Caring about
Caring
people.
about people.
But
Very
but if you want to get involved, there's always something for you to do with the Civil
Always.
Air Patrol.
And our
Go
Thanks
cadets
so much.
appreciate it.
civilairpatrol.com. Thanks for having us, Ben.
You too, Tyler.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Cynthia,
much.
we'll close it out, and we're going to close it up for this interview. And we look forward to either seeing you out on the flight line or letting you hear all of this activity on the radio. So let's not forget what we're here for. We're aviation safety oriented. We're here doing this with people because people's what it's all about. That's what we're here to save, take care of, educate, train, and co-mingle with. So I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts. Take it easy. We'll see you next interview.